them before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Good morning, friend.
Excited to be here with you.
Yes.
And we got a great guest, and so it's going to be a good show.
Good.
Very excited about it. And we have to say, because we didn't last week, because I am remiss and a bad friend, that it was Nancy's birthday on Mother's Day.
Yes, it was.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Birthday and Mother's Day
and
on
happy
the
Mother's
same
Day to you.
day.
Yeah, it was. It was a double
kind
whammy.
Of a jip.
Well, no, not really. It was nice.
Okay. Well, but you should get extra. Like Jem, he asked me what I wanted for Mother's Day, and I said he writes beautiful poems. And he wrote my husband last year the most beautiful poem on the face of the earth, and I keep poking, trying to get a poem. And I got a poem, but it was about Mother's Day. It wasn't so much about me, and it was about Mother's Day and about how it isn't something... I mean, loosely based on me, I guess, but it isn't something that should just be one day.
Right.
That mothers should be celebrated every day, or
how
at
nice.
the very least that we should get a week, he said.
That's nice.
And I'm like, yeah, what about that? Let's lobby for that. We need a week. But you should get a week of that and then a week for your birthday. Although our friend Elaine Hall says for your birthday you get the whole month.
Okay.
The whole month. It's your birthday month.
Your birthday month.
And that is how she refers to it. She's like, well, it's my birthday month.
Okay.
So I get to go first, or I get to do. Elaine's very good at that. So it's your birthday month.
Okay.
All right. And it doesn't just, it's not, May 1st to May 30th. You should get from May 10th to like June 10th.
Right. Okay.
So there you go. You're queen for the next month.
All right. Great. All right. I'll take that.
So we've got some in the news stories for you.
Yes, a feel-good story, first of all.
Yeah, let's start with a feel-good because we got one that's horrible. But I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to see this. It's gone viral, gotten many, many hits. Tommy Sondergraf is a young man, and his dad posted a video of him at a concert, and he said, this is what #inclusion looks like at Harrison High School. And the video is, there's a picture. So Tommy is the young man that's in the
shirt.
gray shirt.
Gray shirt.
And it's an inclusion program, a show choir, and he had a duet with the other young man. And he was so excited about it. He was like making these kinds of gestures, and he sang out, and it was just delightful, and he was so thrilled about it that you couldn't mistake that. And what I loved, I mean, I watched it like 14 times, right? Because I couldn't get it. It was just one of those things that you
can't get enough of.
Can't stop smiling when you're looking at it. But what I started watching after watching him was the look on all the faces of the kids that he was standing with. And in the beginning, and this is sort of at the beginning, you can see that they're looking out, and they are all just sort of neutral. But as it goes on, they're all cheering for him, and they have these grins on their face, and they're excited and cheering him on. And that is what I thought was so cool about inclusion. That makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
That, I certainly have been in the circumstance where my kid got excited at a concert.
Right.
And, I've told the story about the Christmas concert that we were at when he was 6, and I was so worried, because at home Jem would sing. He certainly sang before autism, and we were trying to get him back to that. And my mother had come to see the concert, and so she was like, well, he's barely singing. He has to sing out. And so she was practicing with him. We get to the concert the next day, and it's the 12 Days of Christmas song. And we get to the 5 golden rings, and every time we would get to the 5 golden rings, he would go, 5 really loud, gold and rings, right? And the first time everybody kind of laughed. They were like, oh, that's cute. But then when you're doing it 8 more times, and I was in the back of the room videotaping, and the guy in front of me was like, somebody needs to slap that kid. Somebody needs to take that kid in hand. He's obnoxious. And there was a millisecond where I was like, oh, my kid's obnoxious. And then I was like, hey, my kid passed for obnoxious. There was nothing in that, and later on, because we were playing the videotape back, and my mother heard it on the videotape, and she was like, I want to find that guy. I want to talk to him. I want to say, do you know what that little boy, he has autism, and do you know what he is overcoming? And I was like, no, you're missing the point. At no point did it occur to that guy that maybe my son had autism.
Right.
Like, that was the first time that happened, and I was like, I'll take obnoxious.
Right.
I'll take, but you still don't want them to be looked at like, hey, that's obnoxious.
Right.
You want them to be looked at
blend
like,
in.
hey, you're a part of, and I see you grooving on that, and that's wonderful. And this is what I saw. This, that's even better. Is if people accept you for who you are, not in spite of it.
Right.
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 So. Anyway, I thought that was great, and I just I thought it was wonderful that his dad posted it.
Yeah, he posted it, and then Autism Speaks picked up on it, and it went viral. And Tommy said to his parents, I'm going to be famous at school today.
Yeah, that morning.
Right. And
the parents were like, yep, you are. Because that's like how they roll.
Right.
Isn't that swell?
Yeah.
I love picturing that.
Exactly.
So congratulations to all of them. Okay, next story. And then okay. So this is a Rutgers study. And I don't know if you guys saw this one. This is a very interesting thing, because you know that New Jersey has one of the highest rates of autism, right?
in the country.
And so New Jersey residents, they were tested to see what they know about autism. And what was interesting was that 4 out of 5 of them said that they know someone who with autism spectrum
Which
disorder.
is a very high number.
Yeah. And you go, well, but that sort of follows with the fact that they have a high number of people in New Jersey. But as they broke it down and looked at some very specific things, and of course I didn't circle it, 31% said that they had that they have a child. 31% in New Jersey said that they had a child, and 18% said that they had a family member. But then they looked at some other things. So 62% said that they had seen or heard of ASD referred to as a behavioral problem, which that annoys the you-know-what out of me. 55% think that a child with autism does not have the ability to control his or her behavior. I'm not especially comfortable with that. I don't know how you feel about that. 54% have seen or heard ASD referred to as a brain disorder, and 52% have heard of it referred to as a mental illness. This is devastating to me. And 67% think that ASD is best treated with a combination of both medication and behavioral therapy. I'm okay with that. That one I'm okay with.
Right.
The one that bothers me the most is the one where 54% said that they have referred to this, have heard somebody refer to it as a brain disorder, and
52% mental illness, and 39% identified autism as a nervous system disorder.
Which is kind of low,
right,
when you think about it. So anyway, it's very interesting to hear what and how people think of autism. I had shared last week that I was talking with a child, and they said, autism isn't that when your brain just doesn't work right? And I was like, no. And then we had a little confab about it, but it made me upset because it's a child, and a child doesn't invent that.
No.
Like, they've heard that
Yeah, they've heard that somewhere.
That sort of tore my ticket. But I re-educated that child, and, I don't know about you, Nancy, but, after my son was diagnosed and I realized, oh, this is going to be a whole thing, isn't it? This is I'm going to have to learn a bunch of stuff. I'm going to have to change some stuff that I'm doing. My life is going to be different than what I had anticipated. And that really made me sad, and it made me tired. And I was like, oh, I didn't plan for that, right? I mean, I'm minimizing it, but it was devastating at the time. And then, like, a couple of months in, when I realized, oh, not only on top of all that, but I'm also going to have to be a little bit responsible for educating people who don't know. That really wore me out. I was like, really? Because I don't have enough to do. And now, of course, I just feel like that is, you know, at least half of my mission.
Right, comes with it.
Is at this point in the game, you know, re-educating people who don't know.
Right.
And getting the word out.
Right.
That, you know, it's not what a lot of people think, but it's so pervasive.
It is pervasive.
Doesn't it like sometimes take the wind out of your sails?
Yes, it does. And it's hard sometimes to not react in a negative way when someone says something about your child, and when you have to reframe it and educate, use it as a teaching moment.
Yeah, it's exhausting. So hugs out to everybody. And then here, you know, we saved the worst for last. I don't know why. I don't know why I ordered them this way.
Yeah, very discouraging story here.
Yeah, coming out of Florida, we're out of Broward County again. You know, seems like a lot of stories coming about schools. Florida. This is a special education class at Pasadena Lake Elementary. Was empty on last Thursday because all the students who were on the spectrum stayed home because their parents say that they're afraid to send their children to school. And they're not just saying it because that, you know, they just woke up and decided that they felt that way. But a parent had an Angel Sense device. And we've talked about Angel Sense before. I just didn't know that Angel Sense had this other ability
to record,
you could turn it on remotely to record the child's environment.
Right, I didn't either. I had no idea.
Well, you know, and I'm sure that there are going to be lots of discussions about what's legal and what isn't legal. Right. And we need to be clear that before you think that you're going to just record where your child is, you should cover yourself and know legally if you can or can't. I'm not saying to you that whether you should or should not, but you should look into it, right? But we've seen parents who have sent a recorder with their kiddos to school and have gotten back horrible information. Right. And this parent heard things that sent a chill down every single
Now we should say that they had the precursor to this was that their child came home cursing and screaming, and they knew that behavior had to have been learned somewhere.
Yeah, mom's like, look, I know my kid, and I know he repeats things. Right. So where did you hear that?
Where did this come from?
Yeah, where did this come from?
And that's what tipped them off.
Yeah, and so what we have is there's a teacher and I think, is it one aide? A teacher and a teacher's aide. Both have been accused of cursing and saying things that are inappropriate. They've been removed from the classroom and reassigned while there is an ongoing investigation. And that's kind of how schools do it. Right. They don't automatically fire somebody. Usually there's a union involved, and they'll take a teacher out, and it really tears my ticket because they get paid to go sit in a room and read a book, basically, is what happens usually, while they investigate. But this is pretty bad. In one clip, there you can hear a student screaming, and her mother says that she knows that scream and that it's fear, it's panic. She was in pain. She was in real pain, and that she recognizes that cry. Right. And I think we all, as parents, we know the difference between when our kids are just screaming because there's nothing going on, or screaming because they're excited, or screaming because they're in pain. It just really breaks my heart. You know, if you're not somebody who should be working with kids that have different abilities, then don't. There are other jobs, there are other things that you can do, but I don't know about you, Nancy. When I hear that these things happen, and it makes me think, how many more cases of it?
Of course, that aren't being caught.
I really am a proponent for that there should be a camera in every single classroom. Like that would just stop a lot of the shenanigans. I just don't understand why there isn't, even when you think about the things that our world has been through in the last few years with school shootings and times when the police couldn't go in because they didn't know what was happening. I'll tell you what, you put those cameras in those rooms and you're going to know things like that, but it's also going to protect the kids and protect the teachers.
Right.
What is the reason for not having them? It's just expense. How freaking expensive is it to build a wall around a school and all this talk about guns and things like, put the cameras in the classroom.
Agreed, Shannon.
All right,
Good.
we're on that
soapbox,
page. Write in and
and
tell
we're
us
all-
if you're in agreement, or explain to me why we shouldn't have the.
Right.
I mean, I'm open. Like, talk to me. Is there some part? I'm a former classroom teacher.
Right.
Talk to me about why there shouldn't be, and I'll listen. But I can't see it. I would have welcomed. My door was always open, and I used to say to parents, "You can come in whenever you want." You know why? Because there was nothing going on in that
Total
classroom
transparency.
that shouldn't have been going on.
Yeah.
And, so you can walk in that door with no notice, come in and take a seat in the back of the room, happy to have you. And parents would do it because they wanted to see what their kid was doing. And boy,
Right.
that was always an interesting day.
I bet.
In any case, all right, we got a great
have a
guest.
guest.
Yes. George Reeves is going to be here in just a second. I believe he's here. And we're going to talk about his one-man show.
He's an
and his
actor.
life as an actor. And he's got to fill us in on what happened in Edinburgh. So I'm excited
At the
to talk
Edinburgh
about.
Festival.
Yes, the One Act Festival. I want to know all about it. Plus, there was something very fun that happened at the last Denim and Diamonds.
Right.
That
We honored Richard Schiff,
Yes.
the great actor from
And-
The West Wing, and The Good Doctor.
Yes, and he got up with a sheaf of notebook paper,
Right, for
and
his
he said, "I was
speech.
just going to write down a couple of things, but I found I had more to say." And he was hilarious. He was absolutely hilarious and touching and moving. But he brought George up. And didn't, I don't think he said his name, but he was talking about him, and I was like, I know who he's talking
Right.
about, because he was talking about his one-man show and going to Edinburgh, and so we're going to talk with George about that and finding out about that and what that felt like, because and what his now ongoing relationship is
Right.
with Richard Schiff. So all of that after these messages. Stick with us.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of May, I thought it'd be really neat if we made our own bird feeders. What's cool about it is once it's done and it's hung in your front yard, backyard, balcony, or whatever outdoor area that you have, your kids will be able to observe the bird feeder and tap when they see birds coming over and feeding from it, like, oh my gosh, oh, so exciting. Do you see that? Sorry I got distracted. I'm just so excited about all the different birds I've been seeing now that I have a bird feeder hanging outside. Anywho, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 2.5 cups of birdseed, half a cup of boiling water, 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, a spatula, twine, scissors, wax paper, and cookie cutters. Alright, now that I got your materials, it's super easy. I have my boiling hot half cup of water, and I'm going to take my 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, and I'm going to pour them in and stir it. The reason I pour it in the water first all by itself is to make sure that the gelatin dilutes really well, and I can stir it up real nicely. Now that it's been all stirred together, I'm going to take this liquid and pour it into the birdseed, making sure to scrape up all the gelatin that we diluted. Now I'm just going to stir it all up. Okay, now that this is all mixed up, I'm going to take my wax paper and put it on my table, just so I don't make a mess. And then I'm going to take my cookie cutter and lay it down. I'm also going to take a piece of string and cut it, about 6 inches long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the cookie cutter halfway full with our birdseed mixture. And I'm going to take my string, fold it in half, I'm going to place it in the center. This way you can hang this up once it's done and dry. Okay, now that it's full, I'm just gonna pack it in. So now that this is all compacted, it's gonna take about 6 hours for the gelatin to get completely hard. If you take it out too soon, the whole thing's gonna fall apart. So let's wait a little bit and I'll see you guys in a few moments. All right, it's been 6 hours now, so let's see if this little guy worked out. So I'm just gonna pull him up and pop him out, okay? And here's my finished bird feeder. All you have to do now is hang it outside and wait for all the great things you're gonna see. Like, oh, I see another bird. This is so exciting. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the activity and keep me up to date with all the different birds that you and your child see outside your property. Until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
We are back, and now we are joined by our special guest, who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before.
And I was saying his name wrong.
Oh, it's all good. George Steeves. Although I was flattered.
Steeves.
Yes, Steeves.
Steeves.
Yes.
I was saying Reeves.
Which I'm flattered by because that was the original Superman.
Right.
So I would like to consider myself the Superman of the autism community.
Well, I'm dubbing you that. I'm saying George is the Superman of the autism community. And George has been with us before when it was just he and I.
Okay.
So this is the first time that Nancy gets to be here. But I'm a big fan of George's. And also, we have had Kobe Bird on the show a lot with his mom, Rachel Bird, and they're big fans of yours as well. And so the last time you were on, though, you had already done the Hollywood Fringe Festival with your show, and you were an award winner, and it went great. And in fact, I was getting ready to do a show at the Hollywood Fringe, and you were giving me all kinds of tips on the last show, and you were getting ready to take your show to the Edinburgh Festival. So for people who don't know what Edinburgh is, talk a little bit about it, and then we have to have the update on what happened.
And talk about the show, because I don't know anything about the show.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, my show is called Magic 8 Ball, My Life with Asperger's, and I premiered it at the 2017 Hollywood Fringe. Out of over 300 shows, it won 3 awards.
Great.
And I've since gone on to do the North Hollywood Fringe Festival in the fall, where it won its 4th award for Best One-Person Show Comedy. And I met Shannon in early 2018. I was at AutFest, which is an autism film festival. And I was going around handing out my flyers, which had my Indiegogo link on it because I had started an Indiegogo page to raise funds to take my show to Edinburgh Fringe. Now, for those of you who don't know, Edinburgh Fringe is the biggest theater festival in the world. I think over 3,000 shows went last year. It is like it's the biggest theater festival in the world, but it's really expensive to go, and especially if you're going to have a team behind you to promote the show. Because it's easy to get lost in a shuffle of 3,000 shows.
Right.
Yeah.
So it costs $15,000 alone to go. And that doesn't include airfare, and that doesn't include money to eat while you're there.
Right.
So for all of you who watched
ticket.
for all of you who watched my last interview, don't worry, I am not begging for money this time around. So what happened was I started the Indiegogo page, and I came on here on Autism Live to promote it and was begging people to donate. And I ended up not making the $15,000 that I needed, unfortunately. So what I did was I worked out a deal with my producer, Michael Blaha. Big shout out to him, because he had never did this for any other show, ever. And he's been doing this since 2000, taking shows there. So what I did was I worked out a deal saying, okay, I have this amount of money I can give you right now. Let's just absorb from the ticket sales in Scotland. Let's absorb from my deposit for the flat that I was staying in. And then after that, after you recoup all of those expenses, I will then make the difference and pay you back in monthly installments what I owe. So I walked.
That's commitment.
Yes. So I walked into Edinburgh owing $7,950 after my ticket sales, after the deposit came back on the flat I stayed in for the entire month I was there, because I was there for an entire month. I did. I only owed $3,048,
Good for you.
which I paid off in 4 monthly installments of $762.
Wow.
What
So
an
free
achievement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I won my 5th award when I was in Scotland. Out of 3,000 shows, I was one of the few hundred selected to be a pick of the Fringe.
Great.
Amazing.
So tell us about the show, because I know nothing about it.
Well, it's a 1-hour, one-man show that I wrote, and I just talk about my entire life in 1 hour, spanning all the way from early childhood to adulthood, and what it was like to grow up on the spectrum before it was popular, because I was a child of the 90s in rural Virginia. And one of my jokes in the show is I had Asperger's before it was trendy.
Right.
And I talk about all the trials and tribulations, the struggles of fitting in and dating and trying to find acceptance among your peers. And I was in love with this lovely show called American Idol when I was younger.
Right.
And I wanted to be a singer, and I wanted to be an actor, and so I had this hidden standard in myself that, oh, well, maybe if I become a star, then I'll be accepted by everybody,
Right.
and then everybody's gonna love me. And the show is all about the journey of self-acceptance and learning that you don't need all these other elements to validate you. You validate you.
And you've gotten rave reviews from the show. You sing in the show.
I do. I sing, I act, I tell jokes. It's a one-man tour de force that I do in 1 hour, and it's like a marathon. So that's why when I did Edinburgh, it was exhausting, but very rewarding, because I did 26 shows in 26 days.
Wow.
And on my one day off was when I was going over to a different theater to perform in the Mervyn Stutter Pick of the Fringe showcase.
Right.
Where I didn't do my whole show, but I did snippets of my show as part of the showcase.
And your shows were very well attended, I hear, in Edinburgh. And there's a certain amount of busking, that they call it, where you have to go out and stand on the street corner and hand out flyers and promote your show.
Yes.
And I heard you killed that.
Well, it was definitely a challenge, because having Asperger's, I get overwhelmed by people, and it's a bunch of people. But I luckily didn't have to do that every single day, because what I liked about having my producer was my producer puts together interns and a flyering team to go out and hand out the flyers for you. And because of my producer, I was able to get 2 reviews on the show. Broadway Baby, an international publication, gave me 4 stars.
Wonderful.
So they're able to advertise if your show gets a 4-star rating. I was reviewed by The Scotsman, a local paper in Edinburgh, Scotland. And luckily, I did the show in Virginia in July before I went to Edinburgh in August, which definitely had its own set of challenges. I am a Democrat,
Right.
and I'm very left in my leanings, and I went to go do the show in front of a bunch of conservative Republicans who
Right.
voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
And I don't speak too fondly of the current president.
In the
because-
show?
Yes, because it did break my heart as a man on the autism spectrum that we had a presidential candidate who openly mocked a disabled reporter.
Right.
And he still won. And then after he wins, you try to find the silver lining. Maybe he'll pick
Right.
a good cabinet. But then Betsy DeVos gets
Right.
chosen as Secretary of Education. And I don't say his name, I don't say Betsy's name, but I make it very clear, like,
Right.
and his pick for Secretary of Education knows nothing about the public school system or this federal law that protects students with disabilities. And I was a special needs student in a public high school. I wouldn't be in the position that I am today, a college graduate, if it wasn't for the fantastic special education and learning support teachers that I had over the years.
So what was it like performing for that group of people?
I was very nervous, but luckily, even if people didn't agree with me, they were still respectful. Nobody booed me or threw a shoe or yelled out, "You're wrong."
Right.
And that was one of the reasons why it scared me, but I wanted to do it in Virginia before I went to Scotland, because regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, my plea was we got to at least start talking to each other again.
That's right.
That's the first step in healing as a nation, because we're so divided right now and everything is so polarized. And I mean, look, one of my lifelong friends voted for Donald Trump, and on top of doing this show, I have a lovely documentarian named Jules who has been following me around everywhere, and we are currently in the beginning of post-production for a documentary feature film that has tracked all of this.
Okay.
She followed me from California to Virginia on a cross-country road trip. She was my travel companion. She followed me from Virginia to Pennsylvania to Scotland.
Wonderful.
And we're going to shoot a couple more things in Los Angeles next month, and she's even coming with me to New York.
Very
Okay.
cool. When we want to talk about New York, but something happened between Scotland and New York that we were mentioning before about Richard Schiff
Yes.
and Denim and Diamonds.
Yes.
So tell us what happened from your end.
Well, I met Richard Schiff at Augfest,
Uh-huh.
and I, bold as brass, gave him a flyer to my Indiegogo thing. He didn't donate, but he followed me on my Twitter, and I followed him back, and he retweeted it. And so I kept in touch with him through Twitter, and he mentioned my show, and how I actually found out about it was through Kobe's mom. Because Kobe and his mom, Rachel, were there.
Right, right.
And,
Kobe Bird.
Yes,
Yes.
Kobe Bird. And Rachel reached out to me and said, by the way, he mentioned you in his speech as
Right.
one of the many people he has met since doing The Good Doctor.
Right.
And I was very honored and I was very flattered by that. So I reached out to Richard again on Twitter in October because I was doing a show at Cal State University, Los Angeles. I have two directors in this show, Crystal Wilson and Penny Wilson. And Penny Wilson is a professor at Cal State, Los Angeles. And they had Ability Awareness Week in October, and my show was part of Ability Awareness Week. And it was completely free to attend. It was a matinee show during the daytime, so it was going to be a little tougher to get audience because everybody has jobs.
Right.
But I did reach out to Richard Schiff and go, hey, if you're in town, the show is free. Would you like to attend? And he brought himself and his son
His son, who is on the autism spectrum.
as well, and I got to meet him after the show, and I got
Right.
to pose for pictures with Richard, and it was a
Great.
huge honor to have Richard in my audience. Me being a character actor myself, I've been following his career for years, whether it was The West Wing or he did this teen movie in 2000 called Whatever It Takes, where he played a coach, and he was very funny in that. He did a guest star appearance on Allison Janney's current show, Mom, which I'm a really big fan of.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little West Wing reunion they
Right.
had. And it was truly an honor. And I recently tweeted Richard about my exciting announcement of going to New York City, and he retweeted me. I'm in touch with his son through Facebook. He wants to be on my documentary because I'm interviewing other people on the spectrum. everywhere I go. I'm interviewing people in Virginia, Pennsylvania. I met people in Scotland who are from the UK who agreed to come on and let me interview them because I want to hear other people's perspectives and other people's journeys. So while this movie is about me and sharing my journey through doing my show and growing up on the spectrum, I wanted to bring in other people's stories as well. And Dina, who has her own documentary feature film, came on and did my documentary as well. So Jules shot the two of us together when I was in Pennsylvania.
Yes, that was the first conversation that you and I had because we were at Autfest and they were showing Dina that film. Oh my gosh, I love that film so much. And we were having a big, it actually won at Autfest for Best Documentary, as it should have.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't seen Dina, oh my God, it's such a great, great film. And so you and I were talking about that because you're friends with Dina and you knew some of the people around.
Small world. I went to high school with one of the directors of Dina, Dan Sickles. Dan was 1 year above me, but we both went to the same high school and we were in drama club together, so we knew each other. And I had no idea what Dina was about until I saw it during the summer of 2017 when Sundance brought it out here for a special screening because it won at Sundance, I believe. And then when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is about my community. You know, I jokingly say, my people.
That's right.
And then so I got to meet Dina, and Dina and I exchanged numbers, and we've been in touch. And every time I'm in Pennsylvania visiting my parents, I always visit Dina. And
it's a wonderful thing.
And
so we should get to the big news, though, because you have something big that's happening. We've mentioned New York a couple of times.
Yes.
So what is happening with New York?
After 2 years of doing this show, and 3 years, because I started developing it in 2016. I developed it a year before I premiered it. My show is finally making its New York City debut.
That's awesome. That's big news.
I'm going to be at the Crane Theater, which is in Manhattan's East Village.
Okay.
And it has been a dream of mine to, I've done this show at Hollywood Fringe, North Hollywood Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe. I did Solo Fest at Whitefire. I've done Thousand Oaks at Hillcrest Center for the Arts. I've done Virginia at Westmoreland Players Theater, where I was on stage for the first time as a kid. I've gone all over the place, but now I'm finally going to New York City.
That's awesome. So when is this happening, and how can people get tickets?
Well, it will be on Tuesday, May 28th at 8:00 p.m. And how you can get tickets is www.horsetrade.info. It's the Horse Trade Theater Company, and they have the Crane Theater and under St. Mark's. So yeah, just type in www.horsetrade.info and tickets are available right there. It's $20 general admission and $15 for students and seniors, and it's one night only in New York City. So anybody who's watching this who is in New York or in the tri-state area, please come and see this show.
Okay, May 28th,
yep,
8
Tuesday.
p.m.
Yep.
And if they want to know more about the show, like you have a Facebook page about it, so tell them where they can go to find out more info.
I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram at George F. Steeves, George-F, and then Steeves, Steeves. Or I have a personal Facebook page that I'm always on. I'm always plugging and promoting, and that's facebook.com/george.steeves98.
Okay.
Now, George, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to go back to the actual content of the play.
Oh, that's okay.
When did you get involved in theater? And first of all, when were you diagnosed with Asperger's?
Okay, that's fine. I was diagnosed with Asperger's in 2000 when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
I had a really late diagnosis because usually children get diagnosed at much earlier ages these days. However, growing up in the 90s in rural Virginia, this was new to a lot of pediatricians. And my mother was like, they had their suspicions about it, but they didn't want to put a label on it. And because I was high functioning as a child, it was really hard to categorize me.
So when you were young, you were very high functioning. You did not. What did you what symptoms did you have, or what characteristics did you have?
I definitely had echolalia when I was younger. And because my parents would show me Disney movies, so there was a period when I was 3 years old where you could ask me any question under the sun, and I reenact this in my show. any question, and all I could say was Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. That's all I would say. That's all I had. And then my mom was a really big fan of a soap opera called All My Children. And so they had the opening credits where the book would open up and they would have all the pictures of the characters. And my mom would teach me how to say all the All My Children characters, and I would just repeat them back. And because Susan Lucci's picture was so big, I would always be the most excited, and I would say, Erica! I really want Susan Lucci to see the show because I know she would appreciate that. I keep meaning to reach out to her on Twitter, but I got to get around to it.
So when did you get involved in theater as a child?
Well, Westmoreland Players Theater, which is where I did my show last summer, was the first time I was ever on stage when I was 6 years old. So it was like a nice homecoming to come full circle as a grown adult and do your show there. I did Oliver. That was the only play I did with the Westmoreland Players, but my family was very involved with that theater in the 90s. It was a community theater in Virginia. So tons of plays that my mom or my dad or my sister did in the 90s. We moved to Pennsylvania in 2000 from Virginia. And then I knew I wanted to be an actor because of my love of movies, but you know, I didn't have parents in the industry or any connections, and we didn't live in Hollywood, so I just made the most of resources that I had around me, and that involved school theater. So in 6th grade, I did my first school play, which was Fiddler on the Roof, which I also talk about in my show, because that was like an education on Jewish culture. Because my father's a retired Episcopal priest, and I lived in Virginia for 10 years, and I didn't even know what Judaism was until I moved up to the suburbs of Philadelphia. So learning about Judaism and Fiddler on the Roof, that was like a crash course. And then throughout the rest of middle school and high school and my first year of college, I continued doing school theater. And then when I moved out here, I went to college and I joined my first acting class and started auditioning for film and television roles. I didn't have representation so much as it was self-submitting on Actors Access and LA Casting and Now Casting, so it was a lot of short films that I was doing or student films just to get my experience and to get some footage of me acting, to get a reel going.
And do you have representation now, or is that something you're still seeking?
I do. I am represented by the fabulous Gail Williamson at KMR, who also represents Kobe Bird, and haven't had the big break yet, but you know, I've been very fortunate. I went in for The Good Doctor for a guest starring role, and I got pinned, so it's like the final 3 selections for the producer. I've been in for Atypical twice, and they're still shooting season 3, so maybe I'll still get called in.
So what's the dream for you as an actor? Like, if you could be doing anything, what would it be?
I mean, I'm right now, I'm driving for Uber and Lyft, and I'm doing landscaping jobs on the side as a landscaper's assistant to pay my bills.
Right.
My ultimate dream would just to be a working actor, where I wouldn't need another job to supplement income. So even if I was on a soap for 25 years and nobody knew who I was, but if my bills were paid, I can be content with that. Now, obviously, like most actors, I do have those dreams of winning the Academy Award, and you know, because people always say, shoot for the stars, you never know what planet you're going to land on. So obviously I have those big dreams of winning an Oscar or an Emmy or a Tony or...
But is there anybody you in particularly would love to work with? I always love putting it out there because you never know, right?
Well, I mean, there's a number of people I would love to work with. I have a list that's as long as a novel, but my hope for this one-man show when I take it to New York City is I get to have the woman who inspired me to do this show in the first place come and see the show. That is my hope.
And who is that?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Okay.
And I already got to meet Whoopi. I met her in 2016 when I was just developing the show. I was in the audience for The View because my friend was doing Broadway. One of my friends, Rachel Zatkoff, was playing Christine Daae 2 performances a week in Phantom of the Opera. And this is my first high school friend to make it to Broadway, so I had to go and see that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to go to the audience in The View, and I got to tell one of the ushers that she's my inspiration. And they were like, oh, well, we'll make sure she hears that during the commercial break. So they gave me a mic, and I was just like, hi, Whoopi, my name is George. I'm an actor. I came all the way from LA to do this, and I just wanted you to know it was your one-woman show from the 80s that inspired me to do a one-man show about what it's like to have Asperger's. She was like, oh, what's it called? When's it going to be? Where's it going to be? And then I wrote down all my information, and one of the ushers handed it to her.
Okay.
How
And then
wonderful.
2 months later, I followed up with her in Vegas, and I got to go up on stage and hug her.
That's wonderful.
So,
Whoopi.
Yes, Whoopi Goldberg. If you're watching this, please come see the show. It's one night only, and
May 28th.
May 28th, Tuesday, May 28th, the day after Memorial Day.
And what is the name of the theater again?
The Crane Theater, Kraine. So
And we get the tickets by going where?
on horsetrade.info.
Okay, and then look for the show there. And the name of the show?
Magic 8 Ball, My Life with Asperger's.
Okay.
Okay.
So Whoopi, get yourself there if you possibly can.
Yes.
Because that would be super awesome, and we love seeing dreams come true. And I bet it would tickle her pink to be able to be there and know that you were inspired by her doing a one-woman show.
Well, yes, because I was watching an episode of Oprah's Masterclass, and Whoopi Goldberg was on there talking about the beginning of her career and struggling and how she just wanted to work as an
Right,
actor,
right.
but she wasn't having any luck getting jobs. So she put together this one-woman show that displayed all the different characters she
Right.
could do. And I was like, well, you know, maybe I should do a one-man show, because I wasn't having any luck getting any jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was studying at an improv school called the Groundlings.
Right.
And I started to develop all these sketch characters. So I was like, well, maybe I can do a show that displays all of my sketch characters. But then I started going on meetings with different people to possibly collaborate on doing the show with. And this one guy, I ended up not working with him because he cost way too much money. He was charging like $4,000 to put together the show with me, and I didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
But he told me in the middle of my meeting, he was like, hold on, wait a minute, you have Asperger's? That's your show. That needs to be the center of your show, because that's a show that audiences are going to want to see and that, you know, audiences are going to connect with. And another exciting piece of news I have is that after I'm done in New York in May, I will be coming back full circle where it all began to the Hollywood Fringe Festival in June. I will be there on one night only homecoming full circle performance on Sunday, June 16th at 7:00 p.m. at the Let Live Theater at the Actors Company located at 916 North Formosa. I really hope you can make it to this one.
Yeah, I know. We've had like horrible timing all along that I've not yet been I want to see the show, and I've heard people rave about it.
Tickets
George.
are only $12, and one of my biggest hits has been mothers and fathers of children on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I've had mothers and fathers. I had a woman when I did it in Thousand Oaks come up to me sobbing, saying, my son is 30 years old. He has Asperger's. You told his story. Thank you.
Oh, that's
And
great.
you can get those tickets at www.hollywoodfringe.org.
You know how to work it, George. I gotta say.
do.
You know, the thing that I see in you is that you have the persistence that people who are successful have. Like, you just keep on plugging and keep on looking for the next opportunity, and you are very good at promoting your stuff, which is essential. This is
Absolutely.
a business, and you're like, I respect and admire and want to be you when I grow up. Honestly, because like that's a really hard thing to do.
That persistence is very difficult to come by.
Honestly, that's everything, really. I mean, of course, talent plays a role, but Ari, clearly you have that. And, you know, a lot of people have talent, but it's people who have talent and the persistence and understand that they have to promote themselves that tend to do the best. So I know you're going to be just fine, and it's just a matter of time before you're going to be working full-time as an actor.
Well, thank you.
It will happen.
Congratulations on all your success so far.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we want to thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
thanks for
I want
coming
to
by
run
today.
through the websites again a couple of times.
That's okay.
So that people that know in the dates. So May 28th. Go ahead, you tell them.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. I consider myself hopefully a friend of the show now that I've done
course.
2 appearances.
Yes.
So New York City is Tuesday, May 28th at 8:00 p.m. at the Crane Theater located in the East Village in Manhattan. And tickets are available at www.horsetrade.info, HORSETRADE.info. And then
But then they have to search the title of the show, which is Magic 8 Ball.
and then it'll be right there on the calendar once you get on the website, Magic 8 Ball, My Life with Asperger's.
Wonderful. And then
for-
Hollywood Fringe.
Yep, and then June, one night only again, Hollywood Fringe Festival. Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, second Father's Day show I'm doing, because when I did it at 2017 Hollywood Fringe, another show fell on Father's Day, and I never planned it either time.
Funny, that's funny.
So that'll be Father's Day, June 16th at 7 p.m. at the Let Live Theater at the Actors Company, which is located on 916 North Formosa Avenue, and tickets are available at www.hollywoodfringe.org.
And one last thing I'm going to have you say again is, where can they find more information just about you or follow you?
Well, if you want to follow me, I am on Twitter and Instagram at George F. Steeves, GeorgeFSteeves, or you can just come onto my personal Facebook page. I talk with everybody on there, and that is facebook.com/George.Steeves98.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
with us.
George.
Such
Really
a
a pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break and then come back to close out the show. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman. We're here doing allergy-free cooking, and I brought my sister with me today.
Jamie Davis, thanks for having me.
A lot of people are asking about an allergy-free breakfast, and breakfast can be full of crap.
But it's full of crap
cereal.
and it's hard to do. We don't have time in the morning. We're in a hurry.
We're going completely nut-free. The recipe is not
Personality, we can't do anything
can't
about.
do anything about that. So we're going to start off first with I'm using sorghum and brown rice flour. I find the texture good, and I've added some flaxseed meal. We talked about that last time, flaxseed meal for poop. Almost every one of our kids has a poop issue. What's next on the recipe is the quinoa flakes, baking powder, cinnamon, and the xanthan gum. It brings the glutinous texture back into the flour, and often what happens with these recipes is they can fall apart. This one holds up nicely. I like it. For the folks that are egg-free, we have a ton of egg replacers. One of those can be the arrowroot starch or bringing back some additional flaxseed. So there's a lot of options to go eggless, but we're going to go egg full in this one. For sweetener, I use the maple syrup. I stay away from refined sugar. What I'm adding now is the coconut milk, maple syrup, and a little bit of the coconut oil. And we're going to add in the raisins, craisins, and chocolate chips at the end. I find that chocolate chips can coax people to eat some really amazing things. When we started, Jeff had 42 food allergies, so we had to get creative in how we cooked. So nuts were a big, big issue. What I like now is that he can tolerate so many more things after start doing this diet. So let me show you how you can deal with this sticky stuff here. You get your fingers really wet, and you can push it down. So my oven has been preheated. It's at 350 degrees. So we're gonna just throw this in. Like I said, I like it around 23 minutes, and the magic oven says, I'm done. Looks like, don't you love magic ovens? They're awesome. There we go, pops right out. The texture of these, and it's so pretty. It looks almost like a big chocolate chip cookie, but you actually made it healthy. You can be my guinea pig. Tell me what you think.
That looks really good.
Doesn't it? So the textures and the colors in there are just beautiful. So the raisins are for you, the chocolate chips are for your kid.
I can't believe it's gluten-free.
I know, right? It doesn't taste like, crap. We're wrapping up another cooking show. If you have feedback, you can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We're, of course, on Facebook. You could go to facebook.com/autismlive. And, of course, Talkin' Now has thousands of recipes. Join me there, and we can cook some more later on. So thanks for joining us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
And we're back.
Welcome back. Wasn't he amazing?
He is amazing.
I promised you that he was going to be just delightful.
Talk
and
about
lovely.
energy.
And I gotta say too, he looks so good on camera too. He's gonna do well as an actor because he's just so motivated.
Right.
And, but I wanted to take just a second as we close out the show and close out the week here that I'd mentioned the other day that on Sunday night. I'm going to a very special event. It is the American Icon Awards. They give Lifetime Achievement Awards every year. And they do this wonderful event, and stars get these awards, but they pick charities to benefit from it.
Okay.
Because they want the money to be able to go to something fabulous. So this year they're honoring Al Pacino, and Quincy Jones. Those are the two people who are getting the American Icon Award. We know that Robert De Niro is presenting the award to Al Pacino.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So here, hold on to your hats for this. They've said in all their press releases, and a very special superstar guest will give the award to Quincy Jones. Now, who do we think that is, Nancy?
Who do we think that is?
Like if they're like saying that Robert De Niro is going to be there, but they're saying that a super extra star.
I don't know.
Oh, well, see, I'm betting on Oprah.
Oh, okay.
And you know what my reaction will be for that. I will lose my mind entirely. You will all know because you will hear me scream. But like I would be like, Oprah's in that building. But in any case, the reason why we're talking about this and the reason why I'm going is because one of the 3 charities that this year's event is supporting is Autism Movement Therapy in its 3 prongs. Because you know, Autism Movement Therapy is Autism Movement Therapy, it's Autism Works Now, and it's Glorious Pies. So
run by our friend Joanne Laura.
Yes, our fabulous friend Joanne Laura. So I'm going to be there with Joanne and a bunch of people that are on her board for Autism Movement Therapy, and they will have the opportunity that Joanne gets to speak briefly.
Great.
But so we're going to be there with Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro, and Quincy Jones.
And maybe Oprah. Right.
Stop. Just stop. I can't even. Right? But so very excited about that. And you know that I'm going to be back next week with tales to tell.
Right.
Almost like Kathy Griffin used to do, like, so I was there and I saw this person say this to that.
Okay, good. We're going to look forward to that.
I will give you, and I don't even get to go and work. Like, you know, usually when there's a place where I'm going with stars, I'm there with a microphone and working and whatever.
Right, and you're a guest.
I don't get to do this. yes.
So you get to indulge.
I had to get like a real dress.
Okay.
I know that I should have taken Nancy with me because Nancy knows how to do that and I don't. Let's be honest. So yes, I had to get a real dress, and I don't really know what to do with myself at an event like that if I'm not working.
Just have fun, sit back and enjoy.
Stick the microphone in my purse in case of an emergency and just pretend to be like, I don't know how to have a conversation with somebody, but here's the microphone. Let's play pretend. That would be a me thing to do, right? I'm not really here covering it. The microphone isn't attached to anything, but that's the only way I know how to talk to people anymore. Anyway, it's a very exciting event, and I really want to thank the folks at American Icon because one of the other charities that they're supporting that night is St. Jude's. So that's, you know, amazing. And so I hadn't thought about it, but of course, so Marlo Thomas and Phil Donahue will be there. And I'm a huge fan of both of them. I don't think you really get to be close to these people if you're not interviewing them.
Probably not, but you'll see them.
In my purse. That's how I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll just call and see if I can work the red carpet.
Do you know how Joanne's charity got selected?
I don't know, but I'll ask her because I know, you know, that's a thing to know, right? And there's a 3rd charity, but I do not know what the name of it is. I cannot remember. But it's another relatively smaller. So they have the one big one and the 2 smaller ones, which I thought good on them.
That's a good idea.
I mean, that's a really, and what a wonderful thing to do because it's not, you know, from years of doing Denim and Diamonds, like the amount of energy that takes and the expense of it. You make money, but it's like so much work to have another organization do their event and then say, but you're going to benefit from it. Like, what a fabulous win-win-win. So in any case, there we will be, and I will tell you tales from it.
Okay, we can't wait to hear.
We're out of time, but I want to thank Nancy, and I want to thank our special guest, George Steeves.
It's fun being here.
Yes, it's very fun being here. And then don't forget that we'll be back here on Monday, and we have Bonnie Yates, our fabulous guest, and then we have another guest, but it escapes me right now. I'm getting old. I need to write notes more because I don't remember, but I remember thinking, ooh, that's somebody totally fabulous. Are you telling me, Traven? Okay, never mind. We're out of time, but we'll be back on Monday. Watch on my Facebook and on Autism Live Facebook. I'll try to post some pictures on Sunday night.
That'll be exciting.
Back on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me.
I'm sorry, I walked all over you. I'm used to doing it by myself. But anyway,
no problem.
And one from Nancy.
And one from me.
All right. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.